is there any one habit that someone can either add or drop, or maybe both, however you want to answer, from their conversations day to day that would potentially improve the quality of them?
Yeah. So couple. How can I give just one? Like, try to understand what's going on with the person and don't assume that you know. Right. So like just
Mm.
right. So like if a person's feeling a certain way, just try to understand, like do your best to like understand it and to verbalize that. Right. So, okay, help me understand what happened when this thing happened. Okay. Like, okay, so what I'm hearing you say is bah, 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 right? Just like give it back to them and they will correct you if you're wrong. You know, people tend to correct you when you're wrong. So just
Mm.
sort of like there's the shut up and listen, but it's not just listening, it's active listening to try to understand. So it's not just in your head you're saying, "Oh, I get what's going on with her." You're saying, "Oh, is this so this is what's going on with her with you?" And that will allow them to clarify to you what actually is going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
I
great.
think another thing is like, maybe this is, yeah, I don't know if this is gendered or not, but not just trying to like make it better, like not trying
Right.
to make the whatever go away. Like, I think
Yeah,
like,
unless someone's directly asking to make this go
absolutely.
away.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, totally. Yes. Yes. But I think, here's another thing that I found anecdotally is that I will say, are you in like problem solving mode here or not? Like, do you want me to help you come
I
to a
love that question. I,
solution?
I really don't ask it enough, but I love that question.
Yeah, because like, and so here's another thing, which is like, if you jump to problem solving, like it's okay to say, you know what, I just jumped to problem solving and I'm not sure if that's what you want right now. So like, it's not once you go down that road, you don't have to keep going down it. You still come back. Right. So like a lot of
Right.
us, I know, God knows I'm this way in regular relationships, which is like that I will jump to problem solving and that you don't have like, it's really difficult to stop that kind of automatic behavior. So rather than get on yourself or like, okay, I need to stop doing that, go, okay, when I do that, I just need to be aware of it. And then I'll ask the question. You go, oh shit,
Right.
I jumped to problem solving. Is that what you want right now? So I
Right.
think that's something that oftentimes we feel like, oh, I need to stop doing this thing. That might be unrealistic. But just notice when you do it and then sort of say, yeah, I jumped to this. Is that helpful or not?
Right. And do you have anything top of your mind? And I'll give you an example of what I'm thinking
Yeah.
about. Like anything top of mind for what do you think someone could remove from their conversation style to make it a little bit better? Like my suggestion would be like people that interrupt all the time,
Ugh.
right? Like and even like especially if I'm maybe had a little bit too much caffeine that day, I have to be
Mm-hmm.
so careful that I don't do this because I'm people that know me. I'm just so sensitive to coffee that I'm just so fired up that I have to be so specific of like, do not interrupt someone.
So
Like,
this
let
is where
them
I would
finish an idea.
let me reframe what you said from stopping, because I think that in some ways that might be difficult for you to do because
Mm,
you're hyper caffeinated or whatever. Instead, when you interrupt, make it for the purpose of understanding their experience. So like if so um
you're trying to
so
help me conversationally jujitsu my own mistakes. So like
yeah, so,
you go with the momentum of this error and try to make it helpful.
yeah,
All
because
right.
like, so this is something that I teach, one of the classes I teach is like a basic counseling skills class for students who are just learning, like they aren't even in a graduate well, some of them are, but a lot of them aren't even in a graduate program yet for training for becoming a professional helper. And one of the things that I often have to push them on is to interrupt. And what I always say is, if you're interrupting with the purpose of understanding the client's experience, the client doesn't experience as interrupting. So if you're telling me about the last flight that you took, no, that's not a good example. If you're telling me about a challenge, something that you were frustrated with at work, and you were talking about it, and you said, well, it's frustrating because I have to wait for these forms to come in before I do this thing. And then I asked a question about wait, I don't understand. Why do you have to wait for the forms? I don't know. That's not necessarily the best,
Right.
that sort
No,
of
no, I get it.
clarifying.
You're trying to, if you don't have clarity on the story, it's okay to interrupt because you're trying to understand what their journey is. And if you don't, well, then, any question you're going to ask follow up is not going to be helpful. So
And
I get that. That's a good point.
and you as the storyteller, or you as the friend, if I'm interrupting to ask you about the story, to understand the story better, you don't experience it as an interruption in the same way as if I said, oh God, I know I have that same experience at my work where I have to wait for my boss on this thing. Right now
Oh,
it's about
right.
me.
You feel like they're invested if they're asking
Yeah,
you a follow up question. Okay.
absolutely. Right. Like when you were talking to those youth about whatever it was, if they started explaining something, if they were explaining something and you said, wait, help me understand why your mom said that. Right. Like they're
Right.
going to say, like, you're just going deeper into their story. It's interrupting, I guess, but
Okay.
it's depth, it's understanding, it's clarity. What does it signal to them? It signals to them this person cares, this person wants to understand better. It does all this good
So
stuff.
that's a great exception to the rule. It seems like the rule would be try to listen to someone and don't interrupt when they're in the middle of a thought. But if you need more clarity for what they're saying, you can pipe in to try to understand them better.
And I would even push back on the don't interrupt when they're in the middle of a thought. Like if you're tracking them enough, like really well, and they're in the middle of a thought, but you really want to understand, like you got lost on something they just said or whatever, and you need to clarify that, just interrupt. They'll keep going. Right. Like
Okay.
as long as you are focused on them, I think it becomes problematic when it becomes about you. Right. So when it
Right.
becomes about like I'm inserting, this is, I've had a similar experience or you're frustrated, right? It's just about you. If you're staying focused on the person who's talking,
Right.
then I think you're going to be hard pressed, right? As soon as you insert you or your experience or
Yeah, and
whatever,
that's something I've been more conscious with over time.
right. Yeah.
Because
So
it's
that's
yeah.
that's the major thing, right? If you're trying to insert something new, even if it's your perspective, right? Oh, well, have you thought about doing this thing? Or maybe you should try that thing. Like that's still about you.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think if you're staying focused on the other person, I think interrupting becomes is often actually a good thing.